And joining me right now on the podcast and on video, looking very smart in a tie, a Labour tie, John Meyer, mining analyst and partner at SP Angel. Are you a Labour supporter, John?
Actually, the tie was a cast-off. It's an old director's tie from the Billiton days.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned this before.
When
yes.
BHP became bought Billiton. So, yes, it's an ancient tie.
Yeah, and you're going for a nice little meal, aren't you? A slap-up meal, being treated.
I'm being treated to lunch by a client and an investor who's very interested in mining. So why not?
Oh, that's good. In fact, do you know what, you can get the adult Happy Meal now from McDonald's? It's and that's what's the film out, Minecraft film, and that's to do with mining. So here we are. That'd be quite appropriate. Minecraft film is out, and they're sponsoring adult Happy Meals. So there's a new thing. So there we are. Maybe I'll treat you to that, John. You never know. You know, it's quite relevant.
I'm happy with anything, frankly.
Yeah, well, free food. Who's not happy with that?
It's more about the company than anything else, Justin.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of my favourite foods, free food. Okay. Well, I don't think we cannot mention gold, at least. Let me just share the screen here. Gold, we did mention a couple of times a while back when this look at that there. And we've said before that this is going to 3,000. We've been talking about this for a long time. And it's, I said back here, it sort of broke out. You can see this level here. This is back in from August 2020. Pretty much, let's put a line in here. Let's see this. From August 2020 all the way to, March 24. It didn't break 2,100 pretty much. And then all of a sudden it did. And look at that. It's gone up from $2,100 and it's now at 3,041 is a gold futures. So it's, clear that 3,000 level right here. And what do you think, John? First of all, why is it rising? Secondly, do you reckon it'll go a lot higher, or do you think this is it now for gold?
Gold has a momentum to it at the moment. So it's very hard to know where this is going to stop, frankly. And it doesn't really look like it wants to go down. It just looks like it wants to keep pushing higher. And it's been driven by so much chaos in the world. There is so much going on. I think the Middle East is about to be redefined geopolitically. And there's quite a lot that it looks likely. It looks like Turkey might control Syria one way or another. It looks like Israel is going to sort out Gaza. It looks like Lebanon might free itself of Hezbollah. It looks like there could be regime change in Iran. Looks like Donald Trump is changing a lot of stuff to do with global trade. And, when there's so much chaos in the world, I mean, maybe the world will settle down geopolitically, but with so much going on, people are going to gold as a default currency and it's just pushing the price up.
Yeah. Well, listen, I consider ourselves to be quite level-headed, quite rational human beings. But you can see the argument for, the world is going to hell in a handcart at the moment. There's, this Ukrainian deal, for example, I see it as a catalyst to getting worse, because what's happening now is that Russia's flagrantly breaking the rules that he set down with Trump. Apparently, on the day or the night after he agreed to not bomb energy and infrastructure, they bombed energy and infrastructure in Ukraine. And I think Trump is going to be made to look a fool, and he will not like that. So, if anything, he may go back to the table once or twice, but how many times will he say, let's, have a ceasefire, and then Putin break the rules before he says, right, that's it. Let's really put our troops into Ukraine and really go for it. Because, I mean, I see it ramping up because Putin just does that, doesn't he? He willfully neglects any sort of negotiations or agreements. He doesn't care. So I think it's going, and also in the Middle East, you've got Israel starting again. And so you can see people saying, the amount of debt in the system as well is phenomenal. And you're thinking, do you know what? Is there any safe currency here at the moment? So you can see, I can see people physically. I mean, of course, there's more down at central banks, but the more sort of skittish people amongst us are probably thinking, I'm going all to gold. All to gold. That's it. It's the only safe thing around. When all currencies are bust, gold will still be there,
Yeah, and it's not just you, Justin. It's people all over the world making that decision.
Yeah.
And yes, I think you're right. I mean, Putin has spent the last 30 years planning on expanding the former Soviet Union back into the some form of empire again. He's not about to change his mind, and Trump is going to get very, very frustrated, and I think eventually angry at Trump's lack of cooperation, or Putin's lack of cooperation. And then what worries me is that Trump might throw his toys out of the pram and do a lot of damage that could escalate the situation that we have at the moment.
Yeah, well, if you think back to that Oval Office meeting with Zelensky, that was the whole argument. When JD Vance came in, he said, because Zelensky said to JD Vance, "What agreement? What agreement are you hoping to get with him?" He said, "We did it before, 2014. Germany, France, they all signed an agreement, and Putin ignored it. So what are you?" And then Trump said, "Not with me, won't. Not with me." And I think he is doing the same with you as he's done with everyone else. So Trump will not like that at all. And he's he talks a hard game. He's got to back it up. So I'm thinking this could get even worse if Putin doesn't toe the line of it. It could get even worse. This ceasefire will be a catalyst to making the conflict even bigger. So it is a little bit worrying. So yeah, I think because of that and because central banks are buying. I mean, have you any information on which central banks are buying gold or which countries are buying gold?
They are extremely secretive about it.
Yeah.
We know that China was buying gold. We know Russia was, but I would expect Russia to be a seller these days. Saudi Arabia, I think, is buying gold. I suspect a bunch of the other Middle Eastern countries are as well. Look, and I think there are a lot of individuals buying gold as well. Because ultimately, if something collapses the financial system, and we know there are actors out there who'd love to do that, then gold is somewhere to store some cash.
Not at an all-time. Well, it's close to. It's a multi-year high. This is copper as well. Copper's on a good tear. I mean, I do a daily podcast. I cover the commodities and all prices of markets and stuff. And literally, for the last, well, I mean, you can see that for the last few sessions, like copper's up again. Copper's up again. Oh, copper's up again. Copper's up again. And look at that run of copper. Why is copper on a bit of a tear?
Well, this is a different situation. Because the market's concerned that Trump is going to put tariffs on so many imports, the market has been there's been a big premium on physical copper. In fact, some of this applies to gold as well, but to a lesser extent. But there's a big premium on physical copper in the United States. So the traders have been shipping as much physical copper over to the US as they can get their hands on. Probably something like 100 to 150,000 tons of copper is being bought and shipped to the US as we speak. And so that is driving prices higher because that means that there's less copper around the rest of the world for everybody else. Once you've got when you have a big buyer like that, or a series of buyers who are dragging the physical market in a certain direction, prices will naturally go higher. And this is what we're seeing.
So I didn't realize this. Is that an all-time high, isn't it? Pretty much. I'm looking at a weekly chart here. It's a weekly chart back to 1989, and we're showing on the weekly it's $11,162 a ton. Now I've put it back today. So it did have a spike back up in May 24, but it sort of topped out and fell back down quite a bit. But it's now pretty much at that level. So that's a multi-year high, isn't it, copper?
Well, we're not quite at that yet, but we're certainly heading in that direction.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about some stocks, John. Some smaller cap stocks who could benefit from these run in these commodities. But trouble is with gold, of course, is about worry, so that can last for a while. But with copper, is there a worry then it could roll over if when the tariffs kick in and all that stuff happens? Is there a worry that'll fall back the price or what?
There is a concern, but there's a bit of an economic race going on between the United States and China, and that race involves the electrification of a lot of their economies, plus the development of more high-tech industries. So when we talk about high-tech, we're talking about AI, computer chips. We're talking about electric vehicles. We're talking about manufacturing going into the more value-added areas, and of course, all of that needs more electricity, which means more grid support, more power. Of course, power generation these days is hydropower, solar, wind, and all of that requires more cabling. Not to mention the charging points for the electric vehicles and all of that. So copper is a major beneficiary, and and copper is somewhere where investors are quite comfortable investing their money, and that's gives it a certain level of support that you won't see in other lesser metals.
Yeah. And there's no real substitute, is there, I suppose, for gold? I mean, there are, to a certain extent, I mean, you can get fiber optic now on, like, in fact, well, I'm waiting for fiber optic to come to my house because it's so annoying. And I got an email from BT Openreach the other day saying, good news, we've got a date. And I thought, oh, brilliant. So next week, the week after, said, we'll be running fiber cable to your house before the December 2026. I thought, oh, brilliant. Because our internet here is a bit rubbish. We moved here last year and it's very, but I mean, there's no real substitute. I mean, that's only a small part of copper use, isn't it? So there's no real substitute, is there, for copper?
Well, for example, one of my neighbours has asked to get for a quote for a three-phase cable into his house because he wants to have. He's got more reason to want more electricity in his house for electric vehicle charging and maybe even for a heat pump, for example. So I'm looking at installing three-phase power, but the cost of it is extraordinary and the timelines are not particularly helpful either. So, there's a lot of people looking at this kind of stuff because if you want to be charging your electric vehicle and keeping the lights on, you need to start thinking about having extra cables running into the streets and into the bigger properties.
Is that right? So how much is three phase? Because I'm just about to we're having solar panels fitted soon, and of course we'll be using that to heat the water, and we haven't got an electric car yet, but probably will obviously in the future, and so it'll be used for that. So what's the difference? Why do I need three phase? I've no idea about that.
Well, if you want to charge up an electric vehicle plus run a heat pump, then single phase isn't going to give you enough power, enough amps to do that. So at that point you need to move on to three-phase power because you'll be able to charge up all those things at the same time.
Yeah, I was limited the amount of. I was astounded by this. You got to get a DNO, which is a distribution network operator license, or whatever. So when you get solar panels, of course, you can sell back into the grid. And I was limited to 6. Was it 6 watt? I don't know what it was. But I could have done 10 because we're having 20 solar panels. But they said no, you can't have that. Surely the grid wants as much as you can get supply. I don't understand that. I mean, obviously it's to do with the infrastructure, not the amount of electricity the grid needs. So there's a limit on that. So maybe they do need to upgrade lots of. But yeah, I was surprised they limited me and how much I could sell to them because I think, wouldn't you want as much as possible? It's odd.
Well, they might take the extra power, but they might not want to pay you for it, Justin.
Yeah, that's the case. Okay, stocks then. Stocks in this area, John. Gold.
Yeah, on the gold side, OROSUR, ORIOLE, RESOLUTE, mining. There's a whole bunch of small and mid-sized companies out there that I think are, have decent growth prospects. I mean,
OROSUR.
as brokers,
that's taken off. Look at that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as brokers, we represent and act for these smaller companies, and we like to think that they are moving in the right direction. And certainly, OROSUR is defining a larger resource in Colombia, and ORIOLE are drilling out gold properties in Cameroon.
Why isn't ORIOLE taking off? It's like in a downward. Is there a seller there or something? Because it's just going down. Look at that. I mean, it's since October it was at 0.37 pence, and that's at 0.18.
So they had a joint venture with a major company, but the major company was absorbed by another major company, and then quite naturally pulled out of anything that looked a little bit on the small side. I think that was actually good news.
What do ORIOLE resources have?
They've got a project, the ANZA project in Colombia, and they are drilling. I mean, they're good holes, they're good intersections. It's not a very big project at this stage, but they are looking to.
Well, ORIOLE, not OROSUR. ORIOLE.
Sorry, ORIOLE. ORIOLE is in Cameroon. They've got the Mumbai project, which they are. I mean, the last set of drill holes were not high grade, but there's quite a lot to focus on here, and I think that there are targets that I think are going to give good results going forwards.
Bibembe.
Yeah, and they're supported by a construction contractor, so a lot of this is being paid for by a third party, shall we say, which is very closely involved with the company. So what's not to like?
Yeah, there we are. There's a five-fold results there. 1 meter at 2.62. Okay. Yeah. All right. Marvelous stuff. Okay, and so that's Oriole, ORR ticker there. Let's have the rest. What else is there, John?
Well, there was OROSUR, which is in Colombia.
Yeah, and there's
Uh,
Resolute. What's happened with Resolute? There was a problem there, wasn't there? It fell off a cliff here in November. What happened there?
well, Resolute hadn't negotiated as well as they might have done with the government of Mali. Government of Mali were running around trying to raise funds because the military government needs money in order to defend their borders from various terrorists that are running around the Sahel region. Um, and so there was they brought in a new mining convention
Various
last year,
terrorists
and
who are running around.
well, indeed, indeed, you do get things like, well, for example, Chad had the Toyota wars with Algeria some years ago. Sorry, with Libya, named the Toyota wars because they bought a lot of Toyota pickup trucks, put guns on the back, and then went and attacked each other.
They
So there
seem to
are
be the choice vehicle, don't they, for these terrorist groups, these Toyotas, these white
well,
Toyotas in
they're
the
quite
desert.
robust and they're quite easy to convert. I guess that's what that's all about.
Yeah, there we are. I don't suppose Toyota could do an advertising campaign off the back of that. Favored by
Probably not
terrorists
something
around the
they're
world.
working on.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what I got? So anything else on gold? Oh, Goldstone Resources. So what do they do? That's not popping at all, but it's a tiny little market cap, that isn't it? Where are
Well,
they?
Goldstone are producing gold in Ghana. They had a few management. They had a management dispute. I like to think that that is largely resolved, and I think the company is should be set to start moving forward. So I'm quite like Goldstone these days.
What was the gold port at the Hamasi mine? That was in 12th of Feb. It's my birthday then.
So I visited the Hamasi mine a few years ago. It's quite well set up. I think they need to do some more drilling on the resources, extend the resources, I'm sure it's there. I mean, Ghana, there's an awful lot of gold in Ghana, that's for sure.
Yeah. Emma Priestley's still there. She I interviewed her a
Yeah,
few times.
Emma is running the mine.
Yeah.
She's very dedicated. She makes sure that works.
Yeah. Okay. Marvelous stuff. And what about copper? What was into copper here? Of course, you got Antofagasta. That's a big cap, though. What's the market cap there now? Yeah, 18.2 billion. But that's not really tearing away, is it? It's come down from May, the high of May. Look at that. Last time the copper really, spiked out, and now it's not. It's not reflected the recent rise in copper.
Well, look, I think sometimes it takes a little while for these things to react. If there's a big seller in the market, that seller has to be worked through before fresh buying comes in sometimes.
I did look at recent CAML, Central Asian Metals. Now they seem to have chucking off a lot of cash, and in fact, I did put it here. Where is it? Oh, some notes down here. I'm sure. Oh, I don't know where they've gone. But yeah, they've got a lot of cash, haven't they? So is that the right one I'm thinking of? And it's just look at it, going downwards in a downward trend. But this is seeming quite promising because look at this. You can see on this level here, it's failed to sort of break this level here, and you often get a couple of days of strong upside from the bottom, and then it has to go sideways a little while and carry on. So, what do you know about Central Asian metals, John?
Well, look, it's always been a good copper producer. It's a solid company, good dividend payer, and it's in that mid cap space, which is it gives it leverage generally.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, I think that chart is looking quite promising. I think there's a bottom there. It's broken 50-day moving average. It's quite when you see a clean break like that, too strong trading up days upwards. That's normally a good sign. But of course, so let's look at the move on that. The move was, yeah, 5% one day up, another. No, what is it? 4% one day, 5% of the day. Obviously, a little bit of a pullback here. You can see it come off the high, but that's maybe if it can settle above that and go sideways a bit, that's a good move. So maybe looking at the copper price going up, maybe it's a good one to play. What else we got here? Kavan Kavango.
Well, Kavango is a gold company.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are currently drilling a number of prospects, a hillside in Zimbabwe. There's been a lot of artisanal mining going on these prospects, and in fact, the artisanals I think will make good miners for the new mines when they're planned and developed. So we're waiting for the drill results to come out before we shall we say get overly excited on this, but it does look very promising at the moment.
Yeah. What's it on the chart? There, it needs to close. It hasn't done that. Close above 0.875. I think to see another uptrend. It's done that. It's done that previously. Bit of
And the particularly good and unusual thing is they actually have mining licenses on these prospects. So as soon as they are ready to go ahead, they can actually start building those mines and start mining straight away.
yeah. You mentioned power metals. I know they've got their fingers in a lot of pies there, haven't they? What gold, copper?
Well, they're recently cashed up. They've sold their stake in Guardian Metals down to 19.9%, and that means they've got 7, 8, 9 million pounds in the bank, and they're going to start drilling their uranium prospects in the Saskatchewan Basin in Canada soon. That's a very prospective area for uranium discoveries. There's quite a lot of uranium mining in that area. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. As soon as they get those drill results going, or the drills going, they can then run a scintillometer across the drill cores as that comes out, and get a very good indication of the grade of what they're drilling into. So we won't have to wait quite so long for the drill assays, because they'll get that as the drill core comes out of the hole.
Yeah. Oh, what's this? The notes. What's this? Katora Gold decision to cease further investment in Haneti. So currently Katora owns 35, with Power owning remaining 35%. Okay, so they do hold something in gold, do they? Katora or whatever. I don't know what.
Power
There's lots of
metals
things
have
they hold. They hold lots of. They hold lots of different investments, don't they?
they do hold a few investments. It gives them fingers in a few other pies.
Yeah.
But the key thing I think for now is the uranium, and that is something that we're particularly excited about, the prospect for the results to come out of that.
Yeah. Well, you can see almost now with people worrying about energy security, especially our country, then you realize you need, nuclear in some way. You do need uranium, and it's fine having, trying to go for clean energy. But like I say, it's intermittent, isn't it? And we haven't got the big battery storage to store that kind of, when the wind's blowing and you're not using it, or the sun shining and you're not using it. So you need that stable base load, don't you, of thing. And these sort of modular reactors, small ones, seem like a good thing, because you can see, can't you? It's almost like nuclear power stations after Japan was in an incident many years ago. People were really anti-nuclear, but you realise it happens very rarely, and that wasn't the problem with the nuclear reactor. Essentially, it was a problem with hurricanes and tornadoes and waves breaching the walls. And it just didn't build the walls high enough. Essentially, it wasn't actually the reactors, was it? So, but you can see it's coming back into favour, isn't it? You see a lot more mentions now of nuclear reactors happening.
Yes, definitely. And the Japanese, I think, are going to turn on the rest of their reactors, which they closed after Fukushima. They realize that they need nuclear power going forwards. It's not necessarily the lowest cost power anymore, because wind power is cheaper, but you need this base load power,
Yeah.
so that to offset the ups and downs of wind and solar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's this is what this country needs. You need to. The trouble is, like I said, they're stuck. They haven't got enough money to invest. The government, do they? So, but ideally, what you do is it just plow a load of money into these modular reactors and energy and all that stuff. It create loads of jobs. What else haven't we covered here? And to KEFI.
KEFI has the
They've
Tula
been
Capi
promising
gold
for a long
project.
time.
Yeah, it has the Tula Capi gold project in Ethiopia. They're still working on the financing of that.
That's how long has that been going on?
It has been going on for some years, but it is definitely closer than it was. So look, yeah,
Yeah,
with gold
that's
over
been the perennial
$3,000 an ounce,
story.
sometimes these things become possible.
Yeah, but when you get these the announcements, and it's very spiky. I mean, like I said, you get the. I mean, look at this chart. Wow. And then you get these, way it's going to happen. Oh, hey, it's going to happen. Oh, it's going to, way it's going to happen. Oh, it's not. So it's you're thinking, is it ever going to happen? Is it ever? Do you think it'll happen in our
Justin, one
lifetime?
day it will happen.
What else is there? Oh, we've covered everything apart from tertiary. You mentioned tertiary last time, I think, but what are they into again? Because
Oh, tertiary minerals. Well, they've got a number of things going on in Zambia. They're looking for copper. They've got a joint venture with Cobalt Metals, where they're drilling next to or quite close to the Konkola Deeps mine. Um, so Cobalt have drilled a 2 kilometer hole at the moment. The thing that's costing them $3 million, and they've committed to drilling another deep hole. Now, Cobalt Metals they've got money from Bill Gates and a bunch of and Jeff Bezos and these guys. They're trying to create an artificial intelligence model of Zambian geology, and of course they're trying to find some new copper mines as they do this. So they're not just randomly punching holes into the ground around Zambia. There is a great deal of thought about it, and some fantastic geologists working for Cobalt. So that's one of the projects. Then they've got another one where they have recently drilled some quite interesting silver, copper, zinc grades further south, and I think we're waiting to see some more results from that. And they'll certainly start doing more drilling at the end when the wet season finishes. So I think there's quite a lot to be had out of tertiary, and it's a very lowly valued company at the moment. They have a new managing director, Richard Belcher, who we've met recently, and I think the stock is going to find new life.
yeah, Dick Belcher. Listen, so hang on. Who is funding the drilling then? Is it Cobalt or are they funding it?
Cobalt are funding the drilling there. They also have another joint venture with First Quantum Minerals near the Sentinel mine, and First Quantum are funding the drilling there. So it's quite nice to have two out of three projects being funded by third parties, and
Yeah.
then this other project in the south, they'll fund that one themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's in update on Concola. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Konkola is the
Oh, really
the
small.
Cobalt joint
Yeah.
venture.
Yeah, cobalt. Cobalt. Yeah, not to be mistaken. Because the cobalt. Isn't there cobalt minerals? I don't know.
Well,
But cobalt.
Cobalt Metals is effective. Well, it's an exploration company, but it's so well funded.
Yeah.
The funding they got out of the States for their artificial intelligence modeling is extraordinary, and I must admit I wish I'd thought of it myself.
Yeah. 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 It's sneaking into everything, isn't it? Artificial intelligence. But I mean, I suppose if any data that can be mined and sifted through and organized in a way that's good for AI, isn't it? So you have that in, I suppose, mining and in medicine as well, with lots of data available. That's very interesting there. So what are the market cap? Because that's literally, if they've got they're only at 1.58 million market cap. That's
Yeah, it's a
tiny.
tiny company, and that's I think there's an opportunity in that. I think it's very easy, you know, even one sensible result should make this stock lift quite nicely.
Yeah. And you think of that backing of Cobol with, like Bill Gates behind it and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's got the kind of hype around it, isn't it? You need to see a stock like that move. But there we are. Cool. Anything else, John?
I think we're done, Justin.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, what do you own at the moment? I mean, have you bought anything, sold anything recently?
I bought BE Metals. They're exploring in Zambia a while ago. Hasn't done so well, but
BE
they
Metals, are they listed in the UK
no,
here?
that's a Canadian listed
Oh,
company.
okay.
And I'm following the management team. The CEO is John Wilton. He was a geologist for Antofagasta. Is very good, but they need better results. I think. I mean, the results. I thought the results they had were pretty good, but maybe who knows? We've got to look at it a bit more closely. But the Canadian market has not been in a great state, and I think a lot of the stocks have carried on going south, and you can't fight the market.
No. I suppose there's like, yeah. And of course, it doesn't help if Canada and Mexico, like I said, the Trump tariffs, which are ridiculous, going on and off, and then they're going to start in 2nd of April. I mean, so much uncertainty as to what's happening. I mean, it literally, it affects sentiment. People will delay investing because they don't know what's really happening, won't they? So it's not a good thing. So even if you get past it, I mean, you'd expect some kind of deal to happen before April the 2nd. Who knows? But maybe they'll have to go have to go on to enforce some kind of negotiations. Who knows? But there we are. It's I don't think Trump understands. I mean, do you think he cares? He's wreaking havoc on the markets, or do you? Or what? I don't think he really cares, is he?
I think he does care, but I don't. But I think he sees it as collateral damage, and he has a bigger ambitions in mind.
Yeah, but the whole idea of people relocating to America with that's not, he's only got 4 years in office. You can't even to relocate a factory, a huge factory, it takes a lot longer than that, and it's not going to work, is it?
No, but a lot of companies have factories and production capacity in America, but we're using other factories outside America. If you take these big multinationals, it's actually very easy for them to switch production from, let's say, China or Vietnam back into the United States. So, in fact, the industrial or the manufacturing and industrial production numbers that were announced out of the US this week were remarkably good. In fact, the month-on-month growth was about 3 times higher than expected, purely because a lot of manufacturing was being reshored really quite quickly, so that companies can say to Donald Trump that we are that we're moving stuff back into America.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I better let you go, John. I don't need to make you late for your adult Happy Meal. So, do that quickly though. And on that, the previous high in gold in October was 2,800, pretty much. And then next time it broke that, it gapped up on a strong day up of gold, 2.7%. That's a real bullish move, that. And so we may have to go sideways for a while, but we'll see. I can't. Yeah, like I said, I think the momentum is going to continue in gold because the worries and concerns around the world are not lessening, are they? Marvelous, John. Thanks for that, and speak to you soon.
Thank you, Justin. See you soon.